doing it, but I think we definitely need. I'm going. What I'm going for. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is like a dissociative personality disorder. Like maybe these are different people entirely in your head that are speaking on this. Um, I've been extremely influenced by, I mean, you know me, I love a hot documentary moment. Like nothing is more arousing to me. And I've been watching a lot of them about psychology, and you have psychology is a really big part of this message, and how the trauma of, you know, mainstream beauty standards affects people, and the therapy that they either get or they deny comes in different forms of, you know, whether it's addiction, or if it's well, I mean, if you talk about addiction, you talk about sexual addiction, you talk about drug addiction, you talk about surgery addiction, anything to escape this feeling of being themselves. So, not to like shade people who have mental illness, but I think that this traumatic experience that, I think probably if we had to guesstimate, educated guesstimate, can you still hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I've heard it all.
that there's it's probably 9 out of 10 people who go through this. You know, you're either trying to bulk up, or you're trying to be thin, or whatever. And I think it's the issue is more like, it's not even so much the queer aspect of it, but it's like men don't talk about this shit. Men don't go to therapy. Like it's not manly to do that on top of this all. So I think on a personal level, if you can draw from that experience and push that out, but we can caricature it up and cartoon it up, especially in the third piece where there's, I wrote, you're not spilling tea. This is like the very woke um person that has like 5 degrees and is smoking a cigarette while they're like explaining it to you, like, you know, that kind of feeling. um I would like to see it like kind of unveil itself slowly. It's like, here I am, I'm telling you the news. And then the second part, it's, or maybe play around with like, maybe it's just a very woke person in the second part. Like, here's what's going on. Like, you've seen it in Vanity Fair, you've seen it here, you know what's going on. Like, you're grabbing the air, you're pulling it back, you're like talking about it. I know you have a script in hand, it's not easy to do that, but it's a little bit more like stoic. And then it builds to like, you know what I'm talking about, and then talks, and then like you're doing these, and then at the last part you're, wouldn't you like to dance in some blood? That. So, but I think if you can kind of mentally prepare 4 different characters, completely different people, we'll be in a good spot. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have, you don't
I
have to
like that.
connect them all together. Like it could be, the first one is like, maybe it's a closeted news reporter who's doing this news report about closeted men, and he feels uncomfortable about doing it. And maybe in the second part it is that, like, you know, that specialist, or that lecturer that goes around the universities to like women's studies majors and has these gender studies like things, that's part of their paper, and like whatever they're published and doing research and doing TED Talks. We, if I can go through, and then like the third one, maybe that's like the person who, every time they log in, they are completely shunned or ostracized by the person that they're worshiping. Because I know at least 17 names I could like tell you of people that I know that go on those places. They look at the most unattainable thing. I will never understand it personally because I like fat, but they will go on and see the most muscular, gorgeous, like, and like they're not like, you know, the funnest, most thing to look at, but they got great personalities, they're a great sense of humor, but they just get into this zone of like, I want the most beautiful thing, because if I don't have that, I won't understand it. I'm trying to understand it. I think this piece touches on that a lot. I'm constantly getting sent DMs of stuff that I don't want to look at muscles. Get that out of my face. But it's an obsession. So, and whether, it's a
Yeah.
pronounced obsession with, if I don't live up to that and I don't look like that, I'm not going to get it because that's what I want. That's a huge argument for that kind of attraction. And I think it's very interesting. But there's definitely a psychological issue to it that's embedded in either body dysmorphia or low self-esteem, period. So
Yeah.
we will go through very quickly what I talked about with Marcus. I said, script looks great. Any direction you want me to go? He said, thanks, direction, part TED Talk, part soapbox, part soliloquy. Voila. Wry and snarky, but done with an air of stoic anger. And then I said, do you want like news reporter, then end it more sinister? And he said, yes. And I said, that's the vibe I got, to twist the knife at the end. And he said, exactly. So yeah, I think you can use the snarky, you can combine the snarky stoic, you can combine the snarky with the soapbox. You can combine the soliloquy with the stoic anger. And then the soliloquy is like the fruity part. I would like it to get fruitier in the third.
Yeah,
I want it to be
thinking that
is
the
he,
more
I need it fruitier in the third part. So one it's
absolutely.
not, there's no, it's all like meat and potatoes. Second is it's like, I don't know, is he, and then third, it's okay. There's rainbows coming out of your asshole. And then the fourth is like a combination of all three of them. Are you okay with that? Like you can touch into like the planner's
Yeah.
character a little bit for the third part. Like you're just fed
Yeah,
up with
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Because every single like woke faggot is like, oh my God, I'm so over this. But then like they're the ones that are perpetuating it. So it needs to be that. It needs to be like,
Yeah.
I hate this about us, but I'm gonna anyway. So that's what it is. I don't think we need to really
Cool.
go through it much more. Um, I would just like to pick out which section that you're not the most comfortable or strongest in yet. I'm going to leave that up to you. And then you read that to me. I'll listen to it intently, but I trust you with the other three and how they're going to be presented. The only thing is, I need you to memorize the last line. Is that possible? Hold on one second.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Poppy, calm down. All right. Which one you want to do?
I'm going to do the third one just to kind of go to that other side a little bit more. I feel like I kind of have the newscaster thing down.
I don't think you have the newscaster thing down, personally.
Okay.
But you'll get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The easiest way to do that, you can watch Anderson Cooper. You know who that is, right? Or you could
seen a lot of Anderson.
Yeah, or you can watch old Dan Rather. I think it's more Dan Rather than Anderson Cooper, so don't go in that direction, but just know what direction not to go in, because this is like, I don't know. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, and I'm really inspired by this idea of, people, and I'm sorry I didn't go into this further, but this, like, not only dissociative personality disorder, but like people, how they present themselves online is really, really an important part of this, because, the characters that we create in our second selves are completely different than who we are in reality. And we need to touch on that as well. Um, the thing about the newscaster part is like, no matter how hard a newscaster or journalist tries to present information in an unbiased way, you can always like understand that they're twisting the dial in one direction or the other, especially now that we're so divisive. Um, so
Mhm.
I really want like a strong, like shoulders up, legs open kind of newscaster for the maybe Fox News-ish, but not not that conservative, but somebody who wants to be conservative for the announcer. Or maybe the newscaster, and then the second part is an announcer on like a podcast. Um, and you know that type that like, I have a podcast and like it's really informative and like we've done a lot of research, like it's that. And then the third is just like
Yeah.
you're spilling tea on Twitter, on your live, your Insta live or whatever. So actually, let me write that down. So one is like conservative newscaster who's, who's into male escorts. Okay. And then the second one is
Mhm.
um, the podcaster, period. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the third one
Yeah.
is like influencer slash social media maven slash um, keyboard warrior, woke keyboard warrior, um, who's the biggest victim of all of this madness in both directions. And then the last
Mhm.
one, it's either someone appropriating this the the intent of the sociopath aforementioned in Sergio.
Mhm.
When I was going through with Sergio all of that backstory stuff, I'm like, well, you probably have like on the dark web like a live cam that's always on, and you have an audience and people are like watching you. Or at least I wrote another play where somebody does that. So that was the idea, that somebody's like always online and like you follow their life, and then like all of a sudden there's a dead body and you're like, oh, I'm on the dark web watching some guy do a snuff film live. Like
Kill.
that's, yeah,
Yeah.
totally cool, totally awesome. Like so great, so great. That's where the idea came from. So yeah. So you want to do three?
Um. Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely work on them all tonight, and but I guess would like your feedback most with that one,
Okay,
perhaps.
great. Listening. I'm gonna just
All
look
right.
at you and go on mute.
Sure. You've seen these ocular nubile beauties, gold and feathery tresses frozen in an amber of American hairspray. A white, all-American boy next door visual. Strong line. A hairless physique covered in killer rock-hard abs. A ploy to explaining content to horny, often closeted men immediately became a symbol of sexual liberation in the advent of the circulation of gay pornographic video in the 1970s and 1980s. Holmes found a formula with his Suicide Blondes in California. That same formula that fashion icons like Calvin Klein and illustrators like Tom of Finland latched onto decades prior. Their influence, but especially Holmes, has impacted gay culture and even popular culture, with the metrosexual fad of the 90s and the aughts being directly inspired by Holmes and his many imitators, like statues towering over an Athenian Acropolis, these figures are arguably become the poster children of the Pride movement, or perhaps all people around the world.